Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. We are now in episode 11. Today's topic is very interesting. I'm very excited. We are really very honored to actually have a really great, interesting group of panels today to talk about our topic for today. The title is Data Do and Data Don't. The reason why I picked this title is because to me, data is still something I'm not very sure about. So that's why I'm bringing in a bunch of experts to perhaps they could, enlighten me a little bit more about what data really is about. So before we commence, of course, we have here today with Cheryl is accompanying me again today for our me series episode. So we have three
I'm
very
a shadow today.
you're not a shadow. You're going to help me a lot with this because I need your help as well. We have three very interesting panels from across the world. We shall start with Sebastian. Sebastian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Sebastian. I'm from Belgium. I have finished my studies in 2017, and I'm an IT engineer. I've been an entrepreneur since 2013, and I have launched 7 companies.
Wow.
Few of them in education, especially the one where I work at the moment, which is called Tonic Teaching. At the moment, I'm teaching at different universities in Belgium, in China, and in France. And I have also worked a bit as a contractor for a company called Humanity, which is specialized in agile transformation. So I was a tech lead in several companies. Yeah, next one.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yep. Great. Thanks, Sebastian. Can we have GD then? GD, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jiri. I'm from KL. Little about myself. I'm in the defense industry, so I do data governance and surveillance. That's my background. I have done several startups. Was a former solution architect. I've done solution architect for 15 years. So pretty much work around the IT space for the last 20 years.
All right. Interesting. And finally, Nick. We call
Sure.
you Nick, right? Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah.
like introduce yourself? Yeah.
Totally. Hi. My name is Nick, and I'm based out of Melbourne. In terms of what I do, I work for a company called New Relic, and we're based out of Silicon Valley. So essentially, we have a decent setup here in APAC, and I operate as the solution architect for the APAC office. And I because of the title, data do and data don't. So we are a platform which is all about immense amount of data. So we ingest third largest inbound data on any platform anywhere in the world, which is 1.8 billion events every single minute. So I'm really hoping to talk about some of these things and dive into the data do's and data don'ts, as Cheryl and Yi put it. And I'm
Yes.
super fortunate to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're very psyched about all of you joining us today. It is real. I'm really excited because there's a lot of things that we would like to ask and clarify, of course, and trying to build it down into layman terms so that we understand. Okay, before we move on to our discussion, I would like to play a little game. Okay, don't worry. Okay, it is called What Is, and this game is a one-word game. So I'm going to give each one of you one word, and you are supposed to, from that word, what is your interpretation or representation of that word in your opinion? And it's only one word. And then you're supposed to explain why do you choose that word. Okay, shall we do that?
Let's do it.
Are you guys ready? Okay, I'm going to start with let's start with Nick first. Shall we do that? Okay,
Sure.
Nick. Very simple. One word. This word called QR code. What is QR code to you?
Identity.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Um, Okay, let's do another one. Sebastian, what is coding to you? Coding.
Job.
Job. Ah,
That's a
interesting.
good
I
one,
like that
Sebastian.
one. That's a good one. Okay,
That was a good
Giri.
one. Tell
Giri,
me.
for you. What is pattern to you?
Huh?
Pattern, pattern.
Make money.
Okay, I
Wow.
need. Okay, thank you. I'm very I'm very curious about each one of your answers. So Nick, when I ask QR code, you say identity. Why do you say the representation of QR code is identity? What is your explanation for that?
I think QR code basically has certain details about any object or product, right? So the reason why I said identity is because that's what people are doing. They basically scan these QR codes and they're trying to
Yep.
get some data out, right?
Mm, mm. So basically, it's a form of generating an identity for ourselves, for the person who scanned it, or for the person who developed the code, the QR code.
No. So the way I kind of look at it,
Mm,
it could be a way to associate like a link for a
mm-hmm.
particular product. Like a really common one is marketing.
Mm,
So
mm-mm.
you pass by billboards, you see a QR
Yes.
code next to the billboard, you scan it with
Yes.
your laptop, and you can directly jump on their website or their public media. So that's a really
Ah,
common example I see. Yeah.
I see. I see. Ah, interesting. Interesting. Okay, Sebastian, you're saying coding is job because it's what it is your job, is it?
Yes, it's my job. Yeah. It has been for, well, quite a long time now. Yes, maybe 10 years now. Wow, feeling old.
Ah.
So yes, definitely. Well, code is it's
I
a
think QR code basically
sorry.
uh,
So yeah, coding. Well, the
Yes.
code is everywhere. It's any application that we are using is code. We are at the moment on an online platform. We are just watching interpreted HTML at the end. So yes, and that's what helps us to automate the treatments of data.
Mm. Mm. Wow, very technical already. But I'm sure you've been hearing that word a lot in your life. That's why you are referring to it as your job already.
Yes. Well,
Uh,
yes, I'm coding. Well, I made my days coding for years. So yes, this is
ah,
yes. That's why I said this
that's
is a
a
job. Yeah.
job. Yeah. Yeah. GD, why do you say pattern? Pattern is what's it again? What was it again? Pattern is
It's
what?
all about money.
Ah, it's all about money. Yes. What do you mean pattern is about money? I'm curious.
So pattern is actually an exclusivity. When you have exclusivity, it's all.
Mhm,
I mean, you keep an exclusivity. It's all about remuneration.
mhm.
What you gain end of the day. That's why I jumped straight to the answer. It's all about the Benjamin.
Mm. Oh, interesting, interesting. Okay, thank you so much. I think we've gotten a little bit of understanding of each of our panels from this one word game on what they see in terms of today's topic. So just a very brief general question first. We start off with the big question first. So I know a lot of people have heard about this terminology called big data, right? And a lot of people have been using this word called big data. Perhaps three of our experts here can give us a very general summarization of what exactly is big data, because everyone's using this term, and I'm curious to understand what is the real definition of what big data is actually.
And for
Anyone
the
wants
common
to?
person, right, to
Yeah,
understand the layman
yeah,
terms,
like me
so
and
that
Cheryl, we would if
now we
we
can
can
actually
understand it.
understand what it
Yeah.
means.
Yes, because I know a lot of people's been using that term, but I just want to understand what exactly does that term means, big data. Anyone wants to start first? Maybe Nick?
Sure. So big data is exactly as it sounds. So not to
Mhm.
say, there is small data, medium-sized data, and big data,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but the whole concept behind big data emerged from global services, right?
Okay.
So a common example is Google search. Imagine if you were to store the search results for a single person since year 2000, or whenever, or since the time when Google search engine was launched. Just that one person's search terms and the keywords they searched is going to take a lot of space. So big data, now you multiply that across all the users who have been using the search engine. So you might end up with terabytes and terabytes, or even thousands of terabytes of data. So big data is whatever.
That's why the term called big data, because it's a terabyte of data. Okay.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I just gave you an example of a size, because people understand specific numbers really well. But generally, your traditional databases, they can't store big data set, that collection of data. That's how the emergence of big data happened.
Okay, so the terminology of big data, let me understand it well. The terminology of big data basically means it's the large scale of data information that's been stored in the digital platform.
Yeah.
Is it?
Okay. It actually doesn't just have to do with the volume. It's to do with velocity. It's to do with accuracy. It's to do with value. But I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I want to give my esteemed panelists a chance as well. So I'll stop there.
Okay. Anything else to add, Sebastian or Judy?
Nick, you can take over. I'll give you another 10 minutes of my time. Just take over. Take over. That's fine.
Do you guys have anything to add on, like what he had mentioned? So basically, that is it?
Yes. Usually we are talking. Well, you partially mentioned it. We are talking about the 3V. So you have we are talking about volume, variety of data, and velocity of data. And what's commonly accepted as the definition of big data is when you have the three of them, the intersection of the three groups. So when you have a very large volume, as Nick explained, when it comes very fast in your, I would say, data center or whatever you use as to get your data, and when you have a very big variety of data, so some very different data that you can cross and use. And maybe to explain how huge the data is. Maybe today my numbers are a bit outdated and even worse. But
let's see. Yep.
Today we are in 24 hours. We are generating more data than between the birth of humanity and 2003.
Wow.
It gives an idea of how huge it is today.
Well, understandable, because from then till there, I think that's when internet has not really started yet, right?
Well, maybe we can see when Facebook started. That could be an idea. I think it was in 2004, so maybe there is a link.
Okay. All right. Next question. So, sorry, because I'm from the communication background. So, when we ask journalistic questions, once we have covered the what, there comes the next few questions is how and where. So 5 W's and 1 H. So my next question is, there's 2 questions actually. How does big data derive from, and where did it come from? That's my 2 main questions. How and where? GD, you're very quiet, so I want you to speak out more.
How? Answer is you. Where? It's also you.
Okay. So
how? Thank you for this. It's all you guys giving, how you're feeding the information. Where? It comes from you.
How do we feed? How do we feed? How do we feed the information?
Very simple. Okay, let me, go back to the first little. I wanted to give some input on that part.
Yes.
Let's take your passport. Yes. I'll give you a simple layman understand. Let's take your passport.
Yes, please.
Okay. So in your passport, you will give all the information, correct? So you as a citizen, you give an
when
information.
I'm holding my passport, I have all the information inside my passport. Yes.
Where it come from, you have to provide it.
Yes.
Correct?
I have to fill
So
up the
this is
form
how
in order for me to get my
exactly.
passport.
So this is how data is came from. Now, where it comes from, it also comes from you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, there's another part is data verification. It also comes from you. So if you take a passport, if you
Yes.
put it like a big data understanding,
Mhm.
your passport is some validity of 10 years, some validity of 5 years. So your single information is one sense of data that you are giving. You can put it into your name, your mom's name, your dad's name, your sister's name, your brother's name. That's one type of big data. Now imagine the same sets of people goes and travel for next 10 years. That is
Okay.
another set of data. So who's giving the data? How the data comes? You. And
Mm.
my answer is thank you.
Yes, thank us because we are giving the data out, right?
Yeah.
No,
So we
it's
put ourselves
Because
in trouble.
I can put the Cheryl come from, let's say I put that just for a discussion. Cheryl come
yeah.
from Singapore. She goes, no, no, no. Cheryl comes from Malaysia. Thank you. You just verified my data. So where it comes from? You.
So we ourselves are the one who actually generate these datas into the platform, right?
That's the
Okay,
first level, of course.
that's the
Of
first
course, Nick
level.
can go on into the next level, next level. I'll give you the next 10 minutes for him to tell the next level. I will take only the front part, the human part. Let him take the tech part.
GD, you're a very smart student. That's what I used to do in uni. The first like 15 minutes of the class, I'll answer all the questions. Actually, I only read the first part. Probably I shouldn't say that in front of my students, but that's what I did in uni.
Okay, no, okay, this brings me to I'm a bit curious about this next question though, because you were saying it comes from us, right? So we are the one who actually gave out the data, or we are the one who provide these information inside the whole chunk of data inside the pool of data, right? My next question is there such thing as good data and bad data? Is there such thing?
Ask Bastion. Ask Bastion. He would know
Yeah,
better.
I want to ask Sebastian. That's the next person I'm asking right now. Sebastian, what do you think about this?
It
Let,
depends.
let the teacher answer. Let the teacher answer this.
Good cop,
Good.
bad cop. Now we have good data and bad data.
Yeah, is there such
Oh
thing
yes,
as
but depend from which point of view you are. If you are from the one
oh
giving the data, or from the
uh-huh.
one receiving the data. Uh,
Oh, okay. So the one giving the data is what? Bad data, is it?
bad data is the data you don't want to share. Um,
Oh,
but this is but this is well, there is it's always depend of the point of view, because depending on where we are on the world, um, the data you want to share is very different
mm-hmm.
also. uh, it's a matter of culture, it's a matter of history, it's what's behind of the law that protects you also.
Mm-hmm.
um, for example, in the EU we have the GDPR that's protecting us
Yes.
quite a lot. So it's a global regulation of personal data. I think you have something similar, no? Uh,
We
PDPA, the personal data
is that
protection.
PDPA? GD, is that the one? PDPA, yeah. Is it similar
Personal data
to the EU
protection.
one?
Um, GDPR is more holistic.
yeah.
Okay.
PDPA is only personal
On
information.
Okay.
Mm, yeah, yeah. We have this thing called Privacy Data Protection Act, PDPA, right? Yeah. So it only
2010.
yeah for 2010. They came out this PDPA since 2010, and we have been using that, which it basically is just to indicate that they will be protecting our data privacy. So that whatever information we reveal when we give it out to a certain company, or they will keep it confidential just within the realm of their company per se. Yeah, but
Yes,
I think
son, you just assume they're keeping confidential.
yeah, I mean, this is what they declared inside the PDPA thing lah. Yeah, I
I
did my
just need to
homework,
correct
Jenny.
you.
I did my
we're
homework.
coming to it. We're coming to it
I
soon.
did my
We
homework.
want to know what are we giving out and how dangerous is it?
No, I think
Yeah.
the best person to answer this is actually Nick, because he handles large sets of information. Nick, probably you can share a little bit of good and bad data, buddy.
Yeah, definitely, GD. So I think I want to look at this from a case study lens. We work with a lot of companies, government entities who are sensitive around data sovereignty, and even if they were to send you certain type of data, and it could be purely system performance data, or it could be transactional data, they want to make sure it stays within the country. Now that's the first type of data, and before I get into the weeds and take you down into a rabbit hole of what is good and bad data, I want to address the question at heart. So good data and bad data, according to me, unless if it's corrupted data, any data is good data. Because, the 5 V's of data, and Sebastian talked about the 3 V's.
Yes.
The other 2 V's are veracity, which means, is this accurate in nature? And the 5th one is this valuable? So essentially, as long as there is data, and we also want to think about the type of data. So there is semi-structured data, and then there is structured data. So you could have photos, images. That's one and the same thing. Audio, video, or you could have fixed format data, which is transactional. You might jump on your Uber application, and you're trying to book Uber to go from point A to point B. That's fixed format data. Now, all of this data is good data. And bad data is basically inaccurate or corrupted data, if you ask my personal opinion. So that's the sort of lens you need to look through in order to understand the type of data. Now, the second part is, we talked about data confidentiality. Yes. There is always a trade-off. If you want to be mindful of your PIIs, and you don't want to ship in certain confidential information, essentially, if you are using a service which could use that data and provide good information or personalized experience back to you, you're losing out on that opportunity. So to give you a specific example, Netflix or Spotify, if you were not sharing that data with you, they wouldn't be able to recommend the best choices of music, the best choices of video for you, right? So that's my elongated response in a nutshell.
This gives me to a pretty, I don't know whether is that going to be a pretty tricky question I'm going to ask, because you see they recommend it to you, correct? So they recommend according to the trends that we are looking into, right? So like you mentioned, for example, if I'm listening to Spotify, so I've been listening to a lot of, for example, I've been listening to a lot of heavy metal songs. So they probably will recommend, hey, you should try listening to this artist instead, since you like this song. So why not you try this? That is what you mean, right? By giving the recommendation.
Yeah. In the Spotify context, it's what type of music do you like? And then based on your choices, they will be able to predict what else you could like. But if you're talking about, an e-commerce website like an Amazon of the world or something along those lines, now it comes into selling products to you. So you just bought a table, but maybe you need a table lamp, or maybe you need a desktop monitor, right? So it's the complementary assets they start predicting, and they also promote those products to you.
Oh, is it very similar to this thing called cookies?
Cookies is a really smart part of it. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm throwing in a different question altogether already. Is it very similar to this term called cookies? No, is it? It's a different thing, is it?
Cookies, well, it depends. Cookies can be used to identify you, but at the very beginning, cookies is just a little storage on your browser that's available for website to use. So you can say whatever you want on this space. It's like a little space on your hard drive that you can use as a developer. And of course, you can use it to put some tracking ID or whatever to track the usage of the website from the user.
So do they? So does that mean that this little bit of crumbs that they actually left behind are the ones that usually people will look into it and try to feed you with more information because you have went through to this site before, right? That's what people use it for, is it?
Yes, but there is still some kind of security that you can that you have to
Adjust it inside our
adjust.
settings.
Yes, but a website can never access a cookie from another website. This is actually they're not supposed to. Sometimes there are security breach or whatever. But that's the theory. That's the theory. But then you have, for example, Google, who has developed some little tricks to get around that. So Google's with Google Analytics and all the tools that they provide, Google AdSense, so for the adverts and so on, they are sending some. Well, they are inside nearly every common website, so they can still track what you are doing on the other website.
Okay,
So
we have
good cookies and bad cookies.
So there's good cookies and bad cookies as well.
Bad cookies.
Okay.
So
All right.
depends on which shop you can buy.
Yeah.
Okay. We have one question. We have one question from our audience, and I think it's fairly similar to what we have been covering currently, the topic. So this Farid actually asked this questions. Any comments for banks who share our personal data to insurance company for promotions purpose? Jay! Yeah, I see you
I'm not
laughing.
going to answer this.
I see you laughing. Does that mean you have an answer for this or what?
This is security, right? So you have to take this, Judy. Come on. You have to take this. You know it's going to be controversial. You knew it.
Now, there's two part of it. One is you got to look at it in a two different segmentation: personal data and insurance company. Now, there are banks. If you look at a bank structure itself, some banks they will have their own internal insurance business, and they're allowed to do. So in that case, it's called an internal circulation.
Okay.
They are helping.
So that means it's fine, is it?
It's like taking from Sivasan and give it to Sharat. Just use it and just do the promotion.
Okay.
But if a bank gives to a third party which is outside, is actually if you follow the word called ethical, the answer is unethical.
Unethical. Okay.
It's actually unethical to do it, because the reason being is how many of you actually flip the page called confidential and just blindly, because there's a thing called fine printing in the banknotes.
Yes.
Just because like 60, 70 pages, you flip, sign, because you just want to get things done and move on. But how many people really read that? And actually, if you contest in the court, if your sharer goes to the court and say, you know what, I got cheated, the bank can contest you back. Oh no, you signed it. Yeah, but it's so fine printing that I can't read. But since you induced me to sign, I signed. So that's how it is. So if it's a bank, if the bank has its own insurance body that sells insurance, that's fine. That's internal. But if it goes to third party, which is outside of the boundary of the bank, is actually unethical. So what happened is some people, they'll do it like, okay, they will maneuver this in a different way. Say, you know what, I don't have the insurance operation with me because I'm sourcing it to a third party. So now the data goes in that way. And there's a lot of ways of doing it.
There's a lot of ways of doing it.
There's some fine print in some of the contracts as well that says to this party and as well as their third party, it is written in the contracts as well. They've done it in that way. So sometimes it kind of, they can wash their hands of it. I mean, what's the case in Belgium and in Melbourne? Is it similar?
So, well, in Belgium, you cannot share the data without explicitly telling that you will do it. Even inside the same company, so if the bank and the company is the same company, it has to say somewhere in the contracts that your personal data will be also used by for other part of the company, whatever they are actually. And I maybe also wanted to add something. If let's say that the bank and the insurance are separated, but There is, so you want to share, so, well, you have a car accident.
Yes.
And so you have hit somebody else's car.
Yes. Yes.
And then your data is shared between insurances company. So it's not only your own insurance company who has your data.
Okay. Yes.
And that's one of the pitfalls at the moment about the GDPR. That
Oh.
maybe it has been solved now, but it has been a pitfall because the sharing of the data between insurance company can be, well, it's tricky, legally speaking. Not really
Anything to
allowed.
add?
They always know how to work around.
There's always ways to
Loophole.
work around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick is
exactly.
like
Loophole.
watching. Nick is watching, and like.
You know why I was I went into a little thought around open banking, and I wanted to comment for Fareed that there are three things you can do. The first thing, you want to find out what's a neo bank that you have access to. I bank with Revolut. Revolut is a UK bank. I'm pretty sure in Europe it's quite common. And Sebastian, you might be familiar with Revolut.
Yes, yes.
So the reason why I chose to bank with Revolut is they follow open banking standards. So what that means is, firstly, there's a lot of value they create for you in terms of how they charge you. But coming back to data and sharing personal data, they clearly allow you to opt out when you're signing up for Revolut, that they're not going to share your data with any other party. Now, with the advent of open banking, you could literally, as soon as that comes to Malaysia, you could literally tell your bank that, I want you to delete all my transactional data from your system of records when I move from a CIMB bank to Maybank, for instance. And that will happen in the near future. It's already coming here to Melbourne. And, this whole thing started in the UK. So wait for that, and also find out, how you can hold your existing bank accountable. That's the third thing I wanted to share with Fareed. Yeah.
That's a very
Okay,
good
Farid,
point.
I hope you get some answers out of this. They're very interesting points out here. And yeah, he mentioned something about the e-banking thing, which is very interesting. I think it's relatively still not yet here in Malaysia. I think e-banking, yes, it is in Malaysia, but
Open banking.
Open banking.
open banking, no. Open banking.
So what happens is, in open banking, let's say if you were with a certain bank and you decide to move the bank, you can bring your data from your previous bank over to your new bank account, and your previous provider will need to delete all your transactional information.
Wow.
So that's one of the really interesting facilities.
Yeah. Giri, do you think open banking Malaysia can possible? Possible.
Malaysia boleh.
Malaysia boleh.
It's a long shot of education need to be done.
I think
Yeah,
awareness is also not there, right? So there's open banking here in Malaysia, but there's no traction, and we don't know about. I mean, consumers generally don't really know much about it as well.
No, it's not that. If you look at in a committee wise, everybody know what's an e-wallet is. So everybody embark into an e-wallet and start using e-wallet for easier transactions and so forth. Now, nevertheless, if you look at the government sector, they also, if you look at the last 6 months over the pandemic, they have, introduced and also recognized e-wallet as a payment mode. So that evidence is already, been injected to every citizens over here. Now the question is, I wish this is not public, but if you look at the business, which is very monopolized, so it's going to take a lot of challenge. There are several steps of it. One is regulatory. That's a long shot for regulatory. Then we have business, and then also there's a risk. you know. So if you look at putting all these three together, of course, if you take country like Malaysia, we are there. It just takes a little more time. If you compare to like Nick based in Melbourne, of course, like if you look at neobank, there are 5 neobanks license been issued the last 2-3 years. Some of them like Zinja, Bolt, and Up, and so forth.
Nice.
I've been following up on this. And Nick, I'll speak to you separately on this later on after the
Sure.
call.
Sure.
So if you look at it, uh, if I put it more sensitive is, look at Philippines. Philippines already has 3 neobanks. And if you look at Vietnam, they already have 1 bank, neobank.
Wow.
So where are we?
Yeah.
Where are we in the race? And gradually, like India, there's only, I think, one recognized, then another 2 more coming in. Bangladesh is coming up, Pakistan is coming up. So everybody understood, like what Nick says, open banking. It should give the freedom of finance to individual. I was sharing this to several people, some who are close to me. I said, 100 to 400 years ago, a bank is known to create wealth, where it takes and create more wealth for whoever comes into that platform. But over the years, it became an ROI for a business. So this is where people like you, me, and everybody in this call or whoever watching it, being taught that it's trustable. Yes, I will put in. Now they take, and what you get is the last pin drop of the pipe. So, yeah, the last pin of the pipe. Now, what is happening is the open banking is literally making a switch and say, done is done. I think it has to go back to the public. So I think that is like what it makes sense. It's coming. I see a lot of people are engaging and adopting towards this open banking system, because as we know, globally we are moving. So what makes a data to be at one place and owned by one person? It should be transportable to everybody. So that if you need, you use it. If you don't, you switch off. If you need it, you use it. If not, you switch off. So data should be more transportable so that everybody can utilize what is good and what is bad data.
Judy, have you heard before this app? I recently just heard about it, called Big Pay. I'm not too sure whether other countries are using this right now, but there's this thing called Big Pay. I think it's
Big
like
Pay
an
is under AirAsia. Okay.
it's like an e-wallet kind of thing as well, that you can actually use it at a card form, or you can use it from from mobile phone application form.
Yep.
And the thing that they encourage a lot is usually for people who travel, that they can actually convert the currency according to certain kind of interest rates, so that it's definitely lower than comparison if you use your credit card to go and do overseas payment transaction wise.
Indeed. I mean, this is kudos to our red man, Tony. He does a fantastic innovation work. I think a Big Pay is something good. The way the services and the features are quite interesting, because being a regional service provider, so definitely those on Big Pay do enjoy those services quite well. So if you ask me, yes, it does sort of convert. It gives a seamless traveling experience if
Yes.
you have a Big Pay. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard they say that in terms of the current currency conversion, the interest rate is actually lower than you do it. I don't know. That's what I heard. I don't know.
One plus one is two. Two
Yeah.
minus one is one. So there are various ways of putting it. You know.
Okay. I want to move on to the next topic, next question actually, because this is something that it's very current right now, and it's something that I think a lot of us are actually going through it and pondering upon it, because now because of pandemic, we notice that they have been developing. I think a lot of countries and government wise have been developing applications to track your health wise and to track the trends of your health and security wise basis. So we have this in Malaysia, we have this application called My Sejahtera, which is basically a health tracking-ish kind of application where you fill it up, your information, and then everywhere you go, you're supposed to scan it into your phone so that they can track to see that, oh, where have you been? So in case if there's a certain kind of, um, spread happening in that area, they will notify you to say that, hey, I think you've been to this place at this particular time and location. Best for you to actually go and do a checkup, just in case if you have been exposed towards that situation. So we have this application, which I think right now they are encouraging, and I think it's closer to the extent of wanting you to actually must have it inside your phone to have it up. I'm not too sure in your other countries, do you have certain similar applications as well? Like Nick, in Australia, do they have that? Or Sebastian, what's the name of the application that you are using to track this kind of thing right now?
That's a really good question. I have the application on my phone because it's mandatory.
Mandatory, right? Yeah.
It's
That's
mandatory.
the scary part, right? It's mandatory. The word mandatory really.
Yeah.
I think our side, they're going to make it mandatory soon as well.
Soon.
I sensed it, yeah.
But the interesting part is the application is a bit different. So what happens is you need to keep your Bluetooth on. And the way it works, if someone was tested COVID positive, and they are in the vicinity and quite close to you, what this application does is it picks up that you're close to.
We can't hear you.
Nick, you move.
Yeah, I think you accidentally mute your phone. Yeah, Mike, yeah.
No, my headphone died out.
Oh, okay.
So it's called word sensitive.
Exactly. So what happens?
How censorship is it?
It's obfuscation, right? Maybe the Australian government is listening into this conversation as well.
That's why I say it's word sensitive.
Big Brother is watching. Okay.
Yeah, Big Brother is watching. So what happens? Big Brother.
Yeah.
So going back to what I was saying, what happens is as soon as you come in contact with someone who was COVID tested and they were positive, it sends you a notification like you need to move away because you are close to a person. And then the second application is you need to go and get tested as well because you might have been exposed to that infection as well.
Oh, I see. Oh, so they'll ask you to move, like they'll send you information to tell you that, best for you to avoid going to these places.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm just imagining in my mind because I'm quite a dramatic person, right? So the app comes out in voice and says, "Move away, step 5 feet away."
Oh my goodness.
Carol, that is still very basic. Imagine the same app you created, for a lady and says like, "Move away, this guy is taken." Then everybody go taken.
I think you've just given Tinder a very interesting new feature into the application, GD.
Even Tinder, right? Tinder collects information. I was watching a documentary. They collect about sometimes between 200 to 800 pages of every single thing that you do. And I think earlier you guys mentioned about how cookies work with different websites and how it can talk. Just say it's under Tinder, right? Whatever you've done in Tinder knows what you said on Facebook, which post you like on Instagram. And I mean, just watching that, right, scares me. And when you guys talk about all these things and the possibilities.
I'll give you a good experience. All four of you, put your phone in front. Let it run. No, just put it in front.
Yes.
Have a conversation of a topic. With your siblings or anybody. Okay. 1 hour later, try to browse. You will freak out. So is the phone listening? Susan is already sweating.
No, because you see, the thing is, I have already started wondering about this long before. You remember, Gmail, they used to, they have this, recommendation of how to answer certain kind of questions from the email that you have read. It's like, okay, you have this email and then you want to reply it, and then they will recommend and type to you and suggest to you what kind of answers would you answer. It's already a question that is someone reading my email and giving me suggestion on how should I answer the email.
No, that is NLP. So that's natural language processing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what happens is, based on all the big data analysis, what it's doing is it searches a certain term. So let's say you type in "I will," and you wanted to say "I will reach out to you tomorrow," right?
Yes.
What it does is it predicts with "I will" there has to be a future reference. So
Correct.
it recommends that you want to type along the lines of something like that. So that's the kind of analysis that is happening behind the scenes.
So that one is just tracking from keywords wise basis.
It's predictive texting.
Okay.
So
Sebastian,
is it a good data or bad data? Is it a good data or bad data?
I love it. I think it's a blessing.
It's
So hard, right?
So it's extremely good data.
It's good data.
Sebastian, in Belgium, do you have an application that tracks as well for the current COVID situation?
Yeah, let me just take my phone. I will
Oh,
show you
everyone's taking out their phone.
the application. So, as you know, Belgium is a super high technological country. So we have developed the most powerful app ever.
Wow! Yes.
We have to write down at restaurants on paper with a pencil, very high technological. And we have to fill in. So let's see the name.
Super secure. Super secure.
Like the number of the table and or email or phone number. Very high tracking app.
Sebastian, you just made the day, buddy. You just made the day.
Oh my god!
I mean, I prefer that anytime, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest,
Somehow,
I prefer that as well.
No, actually, this is to become more serious. The government planned to do an app.
Yep.
They contracted a company for that, but then they had some scandals about the data being shared and so on. Well, we are supposed to have an app, but we don't. Come on, Belgian thing. Come on, Belgian thing.
Maybe it's time for us to move to Belgium, Cheryl.
What's not to like? Beautiful beer, beautiful country.
Yeah, I love chocolate, by the way. So I think
less data.
Exactly.
Well, you're all
Ginny will
welcome.
love it there as well. Ginny will love it as well because.
Sebastian, so do you feel
Absolutely.
safer then?
Sorry?
Do you feel safer?
Well, I feel safe in Belgium in general, but safer than what? No, because of the
Data-wise, yeah.
Well, this I don't feel really at risk. Well, at the moment we have to do the social distancing things. We have to wear masks in the street of Brussels, and it's not because of the. Yes, I feel safe because of what the government has done until now to manage the crisis, but not because of the taking of the
application.
my name.
You see, because sometimes there's a sense of false security, right? That something that we won't normally do during a normal time, right? For example, if COVID was not happening, most people would not be so freely giving out their data, right? Everywhere you go, you come and ask me what's my phone number, what's my name, where do I live. I wouldn't be so free to do that to you. But because of the crisis that is happening, they're like, okay, do you want to die or you want to give your data? Which one? So when you look at it in that way, in a crisis situation, chances for us to behave in a manner that we, that is kind of foreign to what we usually would do will be very different, right? So managing this and still trying to be cautious without like putting your life at risk, and at some points you kind of understand why they're doing that, right? It's good for you that you're aware, it tells you about testing, tells you to be cautious, like I said, the voice thing. I don't know whether that happens, but I can just imagine, right, them making you be a bit more cautious. But is it, I mean, this is this whole conspiracy mind of mine going on, right? Like, is it just another way to kind of take our data at a time where we're most vulnerable and more willing to give it freely
Mm.
and use it. And where is this data going? I mean, we talked about this during our last show, right? Episode 10,
Yes.
and
Yes.
GD joined us for a short while. And when we spoke about it, it also make us realize, right, where is this data actually going? Because in Belgium, we're very particular, even to launch the app is like difficult, right? Because people are like, okay, where is my data going? But in Malaysia, they're like, okay, yes, we have an app. We can be, it helps us, ensure we are safe. We don't even ask questions. Most
Uh,
of us.
well,
So
I think this is well, in Belgium, people are just not really coherent. Sometimes they give away the data like take it,
Free.
and sometimes
Oh.
and I don't care, and that's it. And sometimes,
Yeah.
well, the government say, yeah, maybe we can save your life by getting some data from you,
Yeah.
and suddenly, oh no. So, for example, back in time, a few years ago, I was in a Belgian dancing club, and they were offering free shots of alcohol if you log in on your Facebook account on their computer.
Oh, that's very
To
common.
invite
That's
your
very common.
contact
Yeah.
to the to the party.
To
And
the shop. Yeah.
yes, and this was a bit, well, people were actually doing it just because of the free shot of alcohol,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this was crazy because they were giving their personal data. And it was even more than that, because after a little investigation, I have discovered that those people actually had a keylogger. They were logging, which is completely illegal, of course.
Wow.
It's not legal at all. But they were logging using the username and password, well, the email and password for Facebook to reconnect after the party to invite the contact of the person to other parties. So this
Wow.
not legal at all, but people were freely giving full
Yeah.
control on the Facebook
I think
accounts.
our side as well, in order to encourage people to actually download this application, they are saying, oh, we're giving you 50 ringgit Malaysia free into your e-wallet once you download this application. So everyone is
Wow.
like, yay, free money, 50 ringgit. I can do a lot of things with 50 ringgit. Let's just download it. So, you have people all downloading it, They say, hey, they're tracking our health and security. That's good, and I got 50 ringgit. I can buy a lot of things with 50 ringgit. I don't know, but this is some of the ways that they are doing in order to encourage people to download more on the application wise. And I think it's really helping because it's really, like you see, hey, free shots. Let's just give our information for free shots,
When you are free, it means
When
that that's the product.
Yeah. I mean,
So where and how the data come from?
back to us again. So yeah, they're
So
trying
we are
to.
the culprits. We put ourselves in the situation. Is that what you're saying, Judy?
And I would say what? Thank you.
Yeah.
But this
We have
applies not just for banking and things like that as well, right? It applies to every single thing that we do. I mean, maybe we're a bit more cautious, like we're talking about banking information, I might be a bit more cautious, but like Sebastian said, right, you're going to a party and it's free alcohol. You might not think it through so much because you're like, yeah, that's not my bank details, right? That's not my personal
Just
finance
Facebook.
information. You might not, it's just Facebook, it's just LinkedIn. It's just, every time you do a quiz, those games, will you give this data? Like almost all the apps I want to download, I was going to download the app and then it say, what data will it give? Then it will show me all these things or even Google extensions. And I'm like, you need all this information to give me this app.
Yeah, it's like now every time you download an application, they will say that, we
Listen,
want to
I have a question. I have a question.
Free, okay. Oh, it's to them.
Okay, let's see some hands up. How many of you have a Facebook account?
Oh, my Facebook is dead. I have, but it's dead. Is
How many
that
of you
count?
have an Instagram account?
I have, but it's not very active.
How many of you have a Twitter account?
I don't have a Twitter. I don't have a Twitter.
How many of you have a LinkedIn account?
Guilty.
How many of you have a TikTok account?
Oh no, I don't have TikTok. Hey, I'm considered quite safe already, right?
So imagine all these platforms, how much, look at the amount of data that you are feeding in on a daily or seconds basis, and for them to populate. So this is where, when these things occur, so we've been very careful. I mean, like what you say, consciously, we just want to give, whatever the information is possible. For example, you see, like, you take one of the local, Sebastian and Nick, just bear with me. If you take this one local touch and go, okay? I'm not too sure if you have a touch and go account. There's two types of reloading your wallet. Okay. Now let's take a simple understanding. How many of you have a wallet that you do a reload using your bank card?
Auto
Any of you have
reload.
a e-wallet account? Auto reload? You have a e-wallet?
No,
Any of you have a
I have an
e-wallet?
e-wallet. I have e-wallet.
Yeah, Sebastian, you are.
I don't use it a lot, but I have one. Yeah.
Yeah, I have e-wallet.
Nick definitely has. He mentioned Revolut.
Yeah.
But so, how many of you has used those wallet where you have registered your bank card under the wallet? How many of you have done that?
Yeah.
Registered it
And
under my bank card.
Absolutely paranoid.
So there are two ways
Yes, I
of
have. I have.
reload your
Yes, I
wallet.
have. Yes, I have.
There's two ways of reload. One is through your bank card, and
Yeah.
one is you use your FPX and get in, log in, and
Yes.
pay out. But
Yeah.
just for the convenient,
Yeah.
just for the convenient, you will just attach your card so that at any point of time, you just get reload. Especially, if you're a female driver, you try to maximize your time, going through the plaza toll, unwinding your window. So this is one way. So the question is this a good information or a bad information? It's something that you need to ponder over the period whenever you tend to provide information. So there are a lot of, I get calls sometimes. I have this habit. If the number doesn't appear or registered in my contact, if somebody calls me, I will never say hello. I will never say hello.
Will you pick
I
up
will
the phone then?
I'll pick up, but I will never say hello. I expect a human to answer. As you know, lately we have too much of robots calling us, robotic answers. So what happens is you get anonymous calls, which is not familiar to you, and start calling in time after time. And it turned to be nuisance sometime too. So what happened is when I see number that is not registered, I will never say hello. I'll just wait until the person answers. If not, I will hang up. Because
GD,
you have.
this happened with me recently. So exactly on your topic, I got this text from so-called Australian Taxation Office, ATO, and it said there is an arrest warrant in my name.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
being a good Samaritan, I panicked. So I,
Yes.
yeah, so I told my wife, apparently, there is a warrant in my name. I don't know what I've done, but I better call them. And, before I could call them, there was somebody ringing me from a seemingly local number. So there were no international codes. It was 03, which is the local extension countrywide. So I picked up and I was expecting to hear someone's voice, but there was like this beeping sound as soon as I picked up. And then I immediately disconnected. And my wife was like, oh man, now they know there is a person at the end of this number. So they were just validating if this is a real number. And then they will distribute this to marketing agencies. And now I will get a lot of different adverts. So apparently there's a scam like that going on. And I think what you were saying is really sensible in the way you can circumvent it.
Yeah.
No, just not only you, but 2 weeks ago, I was with a family lawyer of mine. There is a local person who called from the tax department and says, oh, there's a due of tax of this amount, blah, blah, blah. The guy, called, spoken beautifully on the phone and say, we need to settle this, we can help you and blah, 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 blah. And, the lawyer that I knew, it's a family lawyer of ours, he says all his tax usually handled by a tax consultant. He has a nominated tax consultant. So he went on and on and on. And suddenly he says, okay, can you give me your ID and blah, and it goes on into detail. To some point, he says, why are you asking a question? He says, of course I will ask a question because I'm a lawyer. Fool, you're calling a lawyer. Definitely, I have the rights to ask you. Bang! Bang! So this is what's happening. So now you understand where the data coming from. It's you. So as much as, of course, there's good and bad part of it. It depends where, in what situation you're giving the data. So if you're
Yeah.
going to a bank, from those days till today, if you look at a job application form till today, you will see there's a thing called religion in the form. I usually never will fill up. I say,
Yeah.
why?
Oh,
Why you
really?
need this data for? Yeah, we do have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do have.
So why you need that data for? So these are the questions we need to start asking. Why you need for what reason? Because the way we have been taught, no, it's not. One is we've been taught, second we assume that data is going to the right hand.
Yeah.
And over the years, the last 3, 4, even 5 years, Nick will be able to give a lot more. The amount of data being manipulated, it's crazy. People are using data for every sort of reasons.
I want to talk
So
about a really interesting case study, but GD, I want you to close that thought before I dive in.
there you go. So this is where I always, when people ask me information, I'm not a person who easily give. So people ask me, how many social media you have? I only have one, LinkedIn. That's it. Oh, you don't have this? No, you have that. I mean, the question is, I was watching a Tamil movie like way back in time, with my, I was watching and I was, there was a one comedy scene. I just liked it and I watched it like probably twice. This guy got caught, brought in into a prison, to a high court. I mean, to a court, Indian court, and he says, "Why did you rob his house?" "Oh, nothing, sir. What happened was me and him got connected on Facebook. So I say hello, he said hello. He said hello, I said hello. Then we got into a conversation and say, "Oh, I'm in here with my wife, with my kid." So I said, "Wow, that's nice. Thank you." I went and robbed in his house. And I said, "Thank you so much." Because he has so much alcohol, I decided to drink the alcohol, take some rest, and he pinged me. He said, "Don't worry, we are slight delay because of the weather. We'll be back in 2 days. So whatever I can do for 2 days, I got it done." So now, who to be blamed?
You're sharing too much
The
information.
robber?
Not just the Tamil movie, GD. I know someone who personally gave out, they do this geotagging, telling everybody on Facebook it's on holiday
Foursquare.
Langkawi. And when he came back, exactly what you said happened. Someone came, robbed him, and left.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in a court, they said the person found guilty never can be guilty. The person who induced to that activity gets better fine. So now who should get better fine?
This happened way before internet. Back in time, you had this fake charity people in common holidays places asking to sign for a petition or whatever, and asking the address, and then you give out your address. They know that you are not at your place because you're on holidays, and then they could go to your home.
Oh my
So
gosh.
this
Yeah,
is
indeed.
not new at all. This
Not new at
always
all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just
You know,
reinvent ways of doing it. Yeah.
just to share with you, yesterday I got a spam mail. And Apple came, an email came from Apple and say, "Oh, your account been la 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 la." So I looked at it. First and foremost, I would never use that particular account for any Apple usage. So I knew this is a spam. So there are various way of managing it. Like I was sharing this to a friend of mine. How do I manage my data carefully? What happened is, when you buy a phone, you tend to have all the email address on the phone just to make it beautifully. You will have a Gmail account, you have a Hotmail account, you have a Rocket Mail account, you have Outlook account, you have every, list of accounts that you keep. So I said, "Why you have so many email?" "No, I have all these email accounts." I said, "Very simple." And that guy asked me, "How many emails you have?" I said, "I only have 3. One's a corresponding email, one's a contact email, and one's a junk email." Because it came to some point now, if you want to download certain point of information from any website, they request for your email.
Yes.
You realize? So
Yeah.
I usually give my junk email address and said, okay, I download and it goes to junk and I clear the junk as and when, Then I have another email, which is my corresponding email, which I don't give everybody. And I only give to certain people for corresponding purpose, and any bank details, and I purely goes. So I know which email I get what kind of email, what kind of responses.
Yeah, I have the
So I
same.
said, this is how you manage. So when you manage this systematically, then it's easy. Then you know how much of data inflow and outflow you can manage. I only have one particular email that I link to my LinkedIn account. So I do get this anonymous email coming from another account. It's like, I know how it works, but I say I don't bother to respond because it got nothing to do with me. Because my corresponding email, I don't get it. So that's how we need to start organizing our data. Very, very seldom people organize their data. So you need to start organizing your data very carefully.
My neighbor is a cyber security expert and is also a penetration tester. So what he does is he goes from organization to organization, and he will execute like a checklist of security tests, and then he's going to validate how bulletproof their security is. And there are so many interesting ways you can hack into the system. So the way they kind of do it, let's say you're waiting at the reception, you find a phone. Now that phone has a MAC address. If you can copy that MAC address or use the LAN cable into your laptop, now you could assume that identity. Now, next thing, what they do is they execute like a ring attack. So the way it works is because it's a MAC address that's identified within the company network, they can now be authenticated, and they can start chatting with other devices on that network. So what they do is they try a combination of username and password. So they are able to download the username from the directory. In the Microsoft world, that could be Active Directory, where all the usernames are available. Once you have those usernames, if out of 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 employees at that company, one person has a weak password like password as a password, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Now they got a username. They were able to authenticate with a weak password, and now they gained access, a privileged access to the network. So imagine the sort of damage they could create. So he tells me exactly what GD was saying. A lot of this is social engineering more than you have to be aware in the way that you provide your data. You have to be aware how you respond to a lot of these social attacks, spam emails, the phone calls you get. It's all around how you react to those situations, and less to do with how you leak out your own data.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because if you're mentioning about this, right, it kind of reminds me of, you see, if we are working, definitely we have a working email. And from the working email, they can actually, if they can access into, like you say, a landline connection, the prediction of them of guessing your username is easy because usually your corporate email is usually your name. So it's just a way of how they know who is working inside there, figuring out the person's name and putting it with the email of the company's address. I think it's quite easy. And if they have a weak password, it's very easy for them to access.
But that's generally, that's why companies have these local keys. So it will be some weird, like your initials and your surname with some numericals at a certain domain. So they do all this security. They take these measures.
What do you think about institution? Is our email address
Susan, very simple question.
Yes.
We do.
How many characters? How many characters your password? How many characters your password?
I'm not gonna tell you.
8 or 10?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Just see, very simple understanding. Standard, usually they say 8. They say 8 characters. I 8 or even sometimes 10 characters. It takes probably 5.7 seconds to hack a 8 character.
Wow. Serious? Okay, I'm very scared
So,
right now.
so if it's a simple straight, it takes 5.7 seconds to hack a 8 character password. So usually people, there are a lot of studies they've done on this. So like when I was doing some work for somebody, so I was on the main screen and I'm trying to log into a system, and my password went long and long, and he asked me, "How many characters your password?" 24.
Wow.
Wow.
But anyway, you should not have your only password should be the one for your key wallet.
Uh-huh.
I would say.
So most of my email, from my email to anything that has password, I have 24 characters in it.
Aiyo.
And it's easy to remember. My password is easy to remember. But just the keystroke that I give for every character is different.
Are you
Do
gonna
you
use
know
the
on
same? Are you gonna use the same password for all your access then?
I have you see, do you know like your credit card has 16 characters, the
Yes.
number?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Use the same. Now all you need to do is, where do you flip it? That's how strong is your password should be.
But if it's all numerical, isn't it easy to also identify it?
Yeah,
That
much
means
easier than
you
your
have,
password.
you have a poor memory.
Sorry, I'm numerical insensitive. So anything with number for me, I will die straight off.
No, it's
Okay, we have
easy. I'll give you a simple understanding, a very simple
okay.
understanding. Your
Okay.
name,
Yeah.
okay? Okay, let's say your name is Susan, S1 3W S at N,
Yes.
see? That makes your
Yeah.
password very strong. Then you can put the whole
That's what
character
they
in.
suggest.
So
Yeah.
what you can do is you can use it in a very different combination.
Use Indian
That's what they
numerology.
usually. Yeah, that's what they suggest. Like you play with
Yeah.
the numbers and the symbols in order to make it stronger. Okay, we have one another of
Oh.
our follower who's asking us this question. She seems to
Didi
really
banking.
know how is she going to make sure that she is bulletproof from any hacking information.
You
Like
should ask your mentor, Ashwina. Who's your mentor? Come on.
Okay, her question is: isn't online banking or payment with technology is much easier for hackers to hack personal information these days? Oh, so yeah, so that is basically what she's concerned about. How will you all suggest for safety or security wise? So that's the part, sharing tips on how do we ensure more security in terms of using anything in the digital platform, especially doing monetary transaction wise basis.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I'll give you one answer. My answer is very simple. Anything online is hackable. Full stop.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly the
Exactly.
same. I was about to say
Ah,
exactly the same.
You guys have heard it from the three of them who are experts
And
at data.
and even
basically,
when it's not online, it's hackable. Actually, even when
really.
it's not online, it's
We are hackable.
Oh
yeah,
god.
you are hackable, and everybody here is hackable.
Yeah.
I there is a very well. I was about to mention that for the previous discussion, but still good in this one. There is a very good book about it called Social Engineering: The Art of Hacking Human Hacking. Sorry, and this tells story about people having nothing online and still being hacked. This
Yeah.
is super powerful, and yeah, nothing.
That's very
Well,
interesting. I really want to read about that in that article, Social Engineering, the art of human
Yeah.
hacking. Is it?
yes, this is a book. This is a book.
So actually I wanted to suggest so the most
How did we
bulletproof
do
way
that?
Sorry.
no, I was thinking, my thought after you guys were telling me all this thing, I was thinking, my thought is, in order for us to be more bulletproof and keeping us safe from being what, like you say, avoid being digital. So I said, let's go back to manual. Let's write with pen.
Exactly.
But then
It's,
you're saying that
it's not feasible.
it's also hackable. Then I'm saying I don't know what to do already. You probably just
I'll tell you, there is a way to circumvent it, or
Yes.
if you think from a risk analysis lens, you
Yeah.
can reduce the risk, but you can't completely remove the risk. So what you could do is
Yes.
keep one single card with limited amount of money that you use for all online activities, and use the same card in brick and mortar situations as well. So I had this situation where I was traveling in US. I was in San Francisco. I bought a coffee, and over the course of 3 or 4 days, I must have made a few transactions. Now, fast forward a week from after my travel, I was back in Melbourne, and I was just hanging out at the cafe. I returned back to my home, and I got a call from my credit card company, and they said there is $7,000 worth of transactions that were executed from San Cabo San Lucas in Mexico.
I thought you were just buying very expensive
Buddy,
coffee.
you just told me you went to US, but end up in Mexico.
My data ended
Where
up.
were you really?
How the hell it
But
ended
this
up
is
in
where-
Mexico?
So this is where the exciting part comes into picture. The banks and these capital companies, right? Companies that are providing consumers with capital, they have fraud detection services which uses big data. So my transactional data plus all the millions of consumers they have, they're watching those transactions. Now, I haven't been to Mexico. I've never had transactions there. This raises a red flag. They send you a text and they ask you permission to release that amount. And when you click a no, they immediately call you and ask you a couple of questions. They verify your identity and they straight away block your card for the next couple of days. And in extreme situations, they will release a new card over to you because your information has been leaked. So companies are getting smarter and smarter. And I was so impressed with this company called Latitude Financial, which is a local company here, that next time when I was transacting with National Australia Bank, NAB, and I had a similar situation with them, I called their support center and I told them, why don't you have that system in place? And they didn't have an answer for me.
So now the moral of the story is you can lie to your wife, but not your credit card.
Yeah.
That's the dangerous thing about having Judy on the show. She was suddenly. You have to be careful.
Yeah, that's a golden point.
Exactly. I mean, for the viewers, I mean, if you're looking at financial security and so forth, it's quite simple. Like what Nick said. For convenience, yes, you need a debit or credit card, but make sure you know where you're going to use it. Like I have a card that anything online, maximum transaction is $500. That's it. So if anything happened, no, it is. It is. That's why I say, at the end of the day, it's the convenience that you want to create. Like myself, anything that's reasonably to purchase online, I'll purchase it, because online purchase became even more easier. That like Shara doesn't need to step out of the door for any purchases that comes to her door. But imagine the last 120 days or last 5 months or 6 months, how much of data you have shared over the net that people knows your own trend. They study your trend. Definitely, they have studied your trend and understood that you are this type of purchaser or you're that type of purchaser. So for those who are using online, so just be careful. I mean, just do a little bit, like how I mentioned, organize your information. Organize your information, dissect it in a manner that there's no, you can't completely avoid it, but at least to some point you have taken some measure. So if you're buying something online, okay, I want to buy this, my restriction is 500. If you lose, okay, at least it's 500, you can walk around with it. But if anything more than that, and of course there are some purchases you'll need to do. You always can go back, like I do. What if there's some purchases, like one purchases I done for what, $3,000, sorry, 1,000 plus. I went to my web, just increased for a day, I mean for a couple hours, I purchased, then I brought it back again. So I do that kind of little exercise. It's just little of exercise, you can just get it done. Like even those days, if you go to a petrol kiosk, you swipe a credit card, immediately $200 is deducted. You don't even realize. Why? It's a deposit. But have you looked back at your bill and look at it? Did they remit back the amount?
Yeah.
Nice one.
You don't.
We
Yeah,
never
that's
check.
See?
We never check.
We never check.
Nick, your wife definitely will check on this, buddy. Just don't give her the credit card details. So these are the information that we tend to ignore a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, so when we do, there was one incident. Maybe I'll share with you. Way back in time, there was one guy was stealing only 1 cent from an account, and he
Yeah.
became a multi-millionaire.
Yes.
Wow.
Nick, you know this case? I'm sure you
Yes,
know this case.
yes. It was a
He only,
banking situation.
yeah, only
Wells
1 cent.
Fargo. Was it Wells Fargo?
Huh? Well, Fargo.
Yeah.
So what happened is this poor lady was doing some work and came back and she goes like, my 1 cent is, my 1 dime is missing. And she went to the bank, say, you stolen my 1 dime. No, we didn't. You stole my 1 dime. And they filed a case and they made a track, and that guy ran off for more than multi-million-dollar. Because
Oh,
why? We don't see that 1 cent.
1 cent. Yes. Yes.
And a
Yeah.
lot of credit card statements nowadays, they don't give you that printed credit card statement, or even when they do, what I've noticed, the credit card statement, sometimes they repeat certain purchases like that you've done before, and I've noticed this in my own bill, and they repeated it. Then I said, okay, I bought this 3 months ago. Why is it on my bill again? Why would I buy the same thing again? And some of the things don't make sense, right? Then when you argue, and it even happens with your phone bills as well, right? So your phone bills, they will charge you, like they see you use certain numbers, they will just keep on repeating it. And if you're very cautious, like me, I'm very cautious about money because I don't have that much, right? So I'm like, I didn't make this call. I remember exactly when I made this call, and you call them up and you make a big fuss. And first they'll say, no, it's in the bill. This is what we recorded. And when you push further and then say you want to speak to their PR person and stuff like that, then they will say, okay, maybe there was a mistake. We will look into it. And then they will do something about it. But if you don't push, they will just go like, oh, that's how it is. And makes me wonder a bit about our current electricity bills, but we will not go into that today.
So again, this is the amount of data that you're sharing. So that center it's you. Who?
But
You.
what happens with, for example, we were talking about social media accounts earlier, right? And you said, oh, do you have this account? Do you have that account? So is there a distinction between private, when you put private settings, or personal? Like for me, for example, my only public account is LinkedIn. Everything else is personal. But I know online as well, there's no such thing as personal, right? So even when you send messages, like I private message you, it's actually, as Sebastian said, it can be seen, right? So
Yeah.
does that public-private thing not matter?
Well,
What's the
yeah.
sudden silence? Yeah. What's with the sudden silence?
I want to hear from Sebastian.
Well, you always, well, depending on the platform where you are in, usually it's really well defined. What does it mean? So on Facebook, when it says that it's private, well, you have actually multiple levels of private, and you have to read which one is accessible to who. Accessible from anybody in the world, accessible from people on the platform you're in, accessible from only your contacts on the platform. And anyway, since we are talking about the big data thing, it's accessible from your contact only, but also from the BI tools from Facebook and or the whatever platform you have posted on. So it depends what you what you have selected as a privacy for your post, of course, and of course this is only for the talking about the public well, how publicly it is available, but the data is still used by Facebook or whatever.
It has to do with the settings that we have to look into, the privacy settings inside the platform.
Well, you have of
help,
course the privacy
actually.
settings, and you have for each post on Facebook, you know it as well as I do. I guess you have the choice to select to who it is accessible.
Correct.
If only
Correct.
the little
But does it help?
little map.
Does it help though?
Sorry.
Does it help?
At some point, it does. Not well, it's not. It's still online, and data leaks. You have it everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just that you have, in case there is a data leak, you have someone to blame. But
Yeah.
but
So if you
that's
don't want it to be shared publicly, don't share it. Basically, that's what you're saying, right?
I think Javier
one.
has a question here, right?
Ravi is there.
Similar to that. What will happen to very private conversations then? So Cheryl, you're saying that if it's public, then probably it'll be shared. Then what happens to private conversations then?
I have.
That adds to your additional one.
I think there is
Anyone?
no such thing. There is no
There's
such
no
thing anymore.
Yeah.
No such thing as private.
We have very good example about that. We can talk about Telegram. So Telegram is super secure, super highly encrypted, and so on and so on and so on.
Yes, correct.
And recently, it started to cooperate with governments to track terrorists, and well, they have good reason, but still, the private conversation are not so private
Not
anymore.
so private anymore.
Yeah.
Same for the phone of well, this was this iPhone for again a terrorist attacks in the US, and Apple didn't agree with the government to find a way to decrypt the conversation, and the government at some point said, "All right, we did it ourselves," and they decrypted the conversation, and so at some point somebody can still access your conversation.
Look into it, right?
Look into it.
So
I
even
want to
though,
talk
if, for
about
example,
corporates.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I want to talk about what's happening in the corporate world. So you have these services like Slack and Teams, and I came across this really interesting case study where your employers and all of our employers are basically listening to our Slack and Teams conversation with the excuse that they want to look after our mental health. And there were some situations in which people were exhibiting suicidal symptoms, and they behave a certain way when they are suicidal. So they behave a certain way at work, and they talk in a certain language. So there are these ML and big data services that are able to pick up those cues from the way they talk to their colleagues. But the second thing, let's imagine you're saying some inappropriate things about a colleague of yours.
yes,
And this is a private conversation on the company chat ops service. And the third scenario could be you're planning to leave your company and you're talking about a competitor. So they are able to use the big data and the ML services these chat ops platforms are providing to your employers in form of insights. And we talked about the 5 V's. So the value part of the 5 V's, and they provide those reports. They're able to provide those reports to the employers if needed be.
So is this terminology of encryption really is it working? I mean, is it functionable as per what they say it is encrypted?
It's contextual and it's based on the application. So exactly, right? So in the corporate context, the data might be safe, but then there are data applications. So how does that data get transformed into insights? That part isn't really secured, and it's a bit nebulous because, as all of you acknowledged, there are loopholes. So you could say, I care about my staff's mental health, and then you could snoop on all the conversations with that excuse.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to gain all those insights if needed be.
That's scary, definitely very scary. And with COVID happening
just
and
worried that
all these new apps, it's scary. Like I think it's compulsory for us to use My Sejahtera app as well now. When I go back to work, and it's not something I'm looking forward to doing.
for you, yes.
I mean, it's not compulsory yet, but like you said, maybe the government will make it compulsory. And I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with the data, and especially with things like this, right? Once the government sanctions it, or globally, right? I mean, with COVID happening, how is data going to be used when we go into airports? Is there going to be some form of tracker that can track us wherever we go to see if we were previously a COVID patient? Those kind of things, which, like you said,
Should,
right?
yeah,
It's for the
yeah,
benefit of all of us, so we all are safe. But
yeah.
probably you won't be able to get jobs in all these three countries in the future. It just, I think we really need to, like GD said, right? We need to be aware ourselves what kind of data we're giving. And when we don't have a choice, we give the least we can. And dialing back on what kind of apps we use as well. I used to use Facebook very extensively and I have two accounts. Now both my accounts are dead except for promoting
Ah,
about this
GD,
particular session. Every once a week I'll promote about this session. But other than that, I mean I hardly use it. It's also because of this data issue. And sometimes when it's something social, right, we think we are safe because I mean who would want to steal my data? I'm just talking about what I did yesterday sort of thing. You don't really compute it as something as valuable data. But of course
yeah.
companies are making millions and millions of ringgit from our social data, right? Like what Gigi mentioned. And I think, I mean, the viewers out there, I hope you all got really good insights because I
Yeah,
did definitely.
yeah,
I'm going to go back
definitely.
and manage which cards are used for what in terms of my banking as well
Oh,
as
I have to go
my
back and
email.
check about all the applications that I've actually uploaded as well, to see what exactly has been given in and stuff like that. And I noticed that, when you download applications right now, they even ask you, right, like, this application would like to access into your contact details as well as your photos, gallery images, and you have to accept it before you can actually use the application. And like sometimes I wonder, why do they want to access into my photos and my contacts in the first place? But if
And
you want to use the application, you have to agree to it,
yeah,
which
you
I
have no
find it
choice. I mean, you do have a choice, like Didi said, right? Just say no. Don't
just don't
download it.
download it. That's what GD will
But
say,
you
isn't
see,
it?
we have only, I think we've only scratched the surface when it comes to data, to be very honest today. And
Yeah.
it's 1 hour, 30 minutes, and we haven't
Yeah.
even talked about things like deep fakes, which scares us to the core as media people, right? Like, now we've done so many shows online and our faces are splattered in quite a few videos on YouTube. I'm like, oh my God, what can be done with,
I hope
deep
nobody's
fakes?
going to start calling anonymously, start calling any of us anytime soon. Just say, I heard
So
you
all
planted
these
a
things
I
are
always
scary.
also be careful. I just add in, even not face. That's a different, when you're on a conference call. I don't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
scare you guys, but I always show this way. I didn't show that way. I have a reason.
What's the that way? What's that way?
See,
Wow.
when I do pointers, you
Yes.
never show your fingerprints.
Ah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
yeah,
good
yeah.
point.
Interesting.
Very good point.
If I have a high dense camera and also a very good solution that supports it, I can actually capture your fingerprint
Totally.
and use it. So,
Yeah, I've never used
congratulations
my
for the
finger to
first
point anywhere
10.
anyways.
Maybe this is
Congratulations for the first 10 ME.
So
There are a couple of news that, I mean, we are in the security industry, so we observe all this quite extensively. I mean, the deep fake is definitely, if you were to talk, probably we need another 3 days to discuss. But as I said, these are the fundamental that you need to get yourself aware. So even this, I'm just being careful. I don't
Yeah.
show my fingerprints easily. Because why? Somebody out there not knowing, able to capture and do, interesting data out of it.
True. True.
so
You
next time I'm
know?
gonna say bye like that. Bye guys. And if you want to watch our next episode and you see us doing that, we're not weird, we're just saving ourselves.
We're just learning from you all. We learned from this. Okay, we learned from
I
this.
think, right, I'm so sorry, guys. I mean, we've taken so much of your time, but I hope that
Yeah.
you'll come back for an encore because I really think this is something that we really need to discuss further. There's so many things we didn't really go
Yes.
into because of
Yes.
limitation of time. I hope that y'all will be able
Yeah.
to come back at a later date
Yeah.
so we
sure.
can
Yeah.
go deeper into this. And I think it's very important because we teach media, right, communications in a university here in Malaysia, and we talk a lot about privacy and data and where our information goes. And deepfakes is one of the things that we also looked at quite closely. And I think this is something very important that, not just students, but everyone needs to know about, and we're not really aware of these things. And it has to be something, and that's the whole purpose of doing these series, right? To kind of open people's minds. Most of the time, we don't realize the things that we should know. We think like data stuff, we give it to the IT guys, security people, they're paranoid, but we don't realize how it impacts us on a daily basis. So please,
Yeah.
if you guys are open to it, we would love to have all of you guys back again.
Yay. Before we close today's discussion, this is our last question for you. Future forecast in the realm of digitalization. What is the future? What do you
Turn off
think
your
the
phone and sleep.
So the future is no phones at all. Throw your phones away. That's GD's solution.
Have some
What up,
peaceful sleep, people.
Sebastian? Anything to think about? What is the future forecast? Prediction.
Prediction. Well, usually, CEOs of IBM, Microsoft, and Apple failed in doing prediction in the digital world. So don't take my word for guaranteed. But anyway, I think the deep learning and machine learning are definitely the future now. This will transform the IT world and at the end all world in a way that's this is really a disruptive technology. This is definitely there that we will have the biggest innovations and the biggest use of it, because it works at the moment. So today it's super easy to use. You don't have to be an IT guy to use it to make predictions. If some platforms will just tell you, where is the data? Or sometimes you don't even need the data. They already have the data. What prediction? What do you want to do? And this is super, super powerful and impressive. So I think for me, that's the future.
Nick, anything? What's the future?
I totally concur with what was said. It's very much based on ML AI, but I think IoT is the one that really fascinates me. Everything having an IP address and data being emitted from your microwave, from your car. And I worked with a company that does IoT for fleet management. So I think that's a fascinating world. The applications are great: smart homes, smart cities, smart everything, and humans will become dumber because we'll have so much abstraction around us that will be, if the opportunists will be able to do more with the time on hand, but then there will be so many people reliant on technology that are going to become less intelligent and less evolved, is the way I look at it.
So GD, finally, last say, future.
Let's wake up tomorrow and see what's happening to us.
Come on, don't go scare me like that. I'm so afraid.
See, it's very simple. Every day we wake up, we do what we need to do. As I said, let's wake up tomorrow and see what's happening to us. That's more important. The first program I learned was Pascal. Nick, remember?
Yeah.
You know the program Pascal?
Yeah. I've heard about it.
You heard about it. I used it, so it's different. So there you go. So the first program I learned was Pascal. And over the years, we see it evolve, So, of course, now probably we'll say ML is big, IoT is something emerging, and so forth. You never know there's something just along the small, undefined line, something popping out. And tomorrow we go and say, oh, I thought it was IoT. Now it's different, So my answer is keep our eyes open. Things evolve, What we see is what we see. Things evolve. If we can wake up tomorrow and see that the differences, then we're good.
True.
Enjoy
using your tech.
Okay, guys, I have to do this. I'm sorry, even though it's our last question, I have to give you another last question. Not question, but I'm sorry, I just can't help it. What is one advice you will leave the audience right today, each of you, what is one thing that they can do to safeguard their data from a personal basis, right? Not a business, but a personal basis. What is one thing that each person can do, like just like immediately today after they watch the show, they log off, they can do something to safeguard their data? What is one advice that each of you can give?
GD say off the phone and go to sleep.
Exactly.
What about your other devices, GD?
Of everything.
So every day off everything or off it for life?
Well, you can do both way. No, just be conscious of what kind of info you're giving out. That's it. Just careful. If you see when you run, you be extra careful when you run. Your speed, you manage your speed so that you don't tumble over. The same thing. The same thing about data. How much of you're going to give? You just the speed that you go, you make sure you manage it. That's all.
What about you, Sebastian?
I think there is a very useful website called Have I Been Pwned, where you can type your email and check if you have already been hacked.
Have I been?
Sorry?
Could you say it
Have
again?
I been?
Have I been punked?
Oh,
Pwned.
PWNED,
I will send
right?
you the link. Maybe you can send it in the
Yeah,
chat.
let's share it with
Send us
the
the link.
viewers.
Send us the link here.
Have you
Then
been
we will
punked?
share it inside there.
This is
I'm
super
sorry, just think
useful.
of
Check it with all your
Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
all your email and so on. I send it in chat over here between us. I don't know where I can.
Yes, got it. Nick have shared as well.
And very simple things to do just to check.
Interesting.
If you do, change your password.
Oh my.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'll be doing after this? What
Click
about
Yeah, I
and
think we're
change
gonna.
password.
Nick, anything?
I think I'm going to give you a little bit of a different answer. If
Okay.
you're giving your data away, make sure you get something in return.
Wow. Like what?
It's all about the Benjamin.
Exactly, right? So I think it's really difficult to protect your data, and there are obviously measures you can take, but it's the free economy. So a lot of software services, they'll be happy to provide you something in return, and just leverage that opportunity.
So, Cheryl, download my Sejatra app. At least you have a 50 ringgit that you can use. That's how you get something out of it, right? Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Thank you so much. We actually have spent about an hour and 40 minutes just for this discussion, and we are truly very engrossed into it. And like what Cheryl say, we truly hope that perhaps if there's any possibilities, we can invite you guys back again for round two of our discussion, and then we'll look into more in-depth details about it. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time, and we shall end this. Thank you. Bye, people. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.